Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to SteamFlow. Today I've got 4 pieces of news that I wanted to talk to you about. The first one is a new SteamOS update that recently hit the stable main channel. It has a lot of quality improvement fixes, some of which are still not working quite right, at least for me. I also want to talk about EA being bought for the whopping $55 billion and if that will have any changes on the industry or in particular for the Steam Deck. The new Asus, Xbox, Ally and Ally X handhelds are up for pre-order and the prices are something that we definitely need to talk about. And lastly, the Steam Autumn sale is in full swing and we're going to talk about that as well. Without further ado, let's jump into all of that. Okay, so let's start with the first one. SteamOS 3.7.15 has hit the stable update channel. It's called the Sound of Silence because one of the updates, or at least a couple of the updates, have to do with fixing some audio issues on the Steam Deck, but it also has a lot more other things to it. Now, one of the general changes with this update is that the Steam Deck should now properly remember the power and clock limits you've set up. So I'm not sure if you know, but you can actually set up a charging limit to 80% on your Steam Deck, which is recommended by most manufacturers because usually the first 20% and the last 20% of charging get the battery very hot. So if you limit it to 80%, you supposedly will prolong the battery life. And all of this was an issue because sometimes you could put your Steam Deck to sleep and it wouldn't remember all these changes you made. So even if you set it to 80%, it wouldn't charge just to 80%, it would ignore that setting. This update supposedly fixes all that. Now, I can't really say for sure if it does because this is not something that I've used. When I review games on the Steam Deck, I have to give accurate battery estimation. So I always try to charge it to 100%. I can't really afford to let it charge only to 80%. But if you're somebody who has used this setting and have encountered this issue, it should now work as expected. Now, the other one that is supposedly fixed is Wi-Fi, not being able to connect to Wi-Fi after turning the Steam Deck on from sleep mode. This is something that I've struggled with, especially on the OLED. I don't think it's ever been an issue on the LCD, but on my OLED, sometimes I put it to sleep, I turn it back on, and it would show no Wi-Fi networks at all. You would need to restart the whole Steam Deck in order to see any of the Wi-Fi networks. Just restarting the Wi-Fi doesn't work, so you have to restart the whole Steam Deck. I think a lot of people have had issues with for OLED for the past year and they've been trying to fix it. There was a previous update that allegedly fixed it. It didn't, and this one hasn't as well. At least for me, I've had this update on the beta channel since I think September 4th or 5th. And I've tested it a couple of times and I still have that issue sometimes. Ever since the update hit the main stable channel, so that was I think 4 or 5 days ago, I haven't had the issue, so it might have to do something that it wasn't really fixed in the beta, but now it is fixed. I would need a lot more further testing to verify that. So let me know in the comments if this was an issue that you had with your OLED. Do you still experience it or is it finally fixed for you? Valve has also turned on the experimental wake on Bluetooth option. This is something that has been turned on and off throughout the last couple of months. When they initially introduced it, it worked without a hitch on my LCD. I'm not sure why they turned it off, but it says in the title it's experimental. It's now back on, and I can say for me, at least for my LCD, it works without a hitch. I can turn it on with a keyboard, with a controller, or even with my headphones, which is actually annoying, but it does work. They've also changed the way they estimate battery charge time, so it should be more accurate now. Previously, you could see some very different numbers depending on what battery level you're currently on, but it should now represent a bit more accurate the time left for charge. Another big thing with this update is accessibility. So a couple of months ago, Valve introduced a lot of new accessibility features specifically for the Steam Deck and for the Steam client. And with this update, they've also introduced many different languages for the accessibility on-screen reader. So if you're somebody with any visual impairment, you can use the on-screen reader to help you navigate not only the actual system but in games as well. And now you can set it to your own language. I believe the languages available are the ones that are usually available for any translation option in Steam, in the Steam client in general. I saw a lot of languages that I didn't think would be available, and I think the only ones that are still not available are Cantonese and Chinese. I think Mandarin but it says to do, so they're probably a work in progress, and these will be added as well. Now, as I said, this update is dubbed the sound of silence, and one of the major changes has to do with an issue that people have had with the 3.5mm audio jack. Now, I don't think I've ever used the Steam Deck with wired headphones, but apparently this was a super annoying issue that people had, where sometimes you would unplug your headphones and the volume would immediately jump up to 100%. So I can see how that can be a big issue if you're somewhere in public and you're gaming. Suddenly you can blast everybody with your with the sounds of your game. So this has apparently been fixed now. I really hadn't used any wired headphones before, but I tested it out after I got the update. I was unplugging and plugging headphones like a madman. So I can safely say that right now it works as intended. The other issue people had is with USB headphones. So if you have a Type-C USB headphones, or you have headphones connected to a dock, sometimes the system would not properly switch the audio to the headphones. So this is something that has also been fixed. Another one is that the Pro Audio option is now gone. This was a feature on desktop mode. I can't really tell you what it does, but I have had issues with it in the past. I think I accidentally had it turned on and I lost audio to my capture card. I had to struggle, I think, for a day or two. I was scouring Reddit and forums to try and figure out why I had suddenly lost audio on the Steam Deck, and this was the reason. I can't really talk more about it because I don't really know what it's for, but now it's gone, so maybe people will have less issues with their audio now. Another issue has to do with the built-in video recording. So you can record gameplay footage on the Steam Deck, but that recording system has a lot of flaws. Sometimes you would get black screen, or oftentimes you would get very distorted audio, very high-pitched audio, or audio that is not synced with the video. This is something that I've encountered. I've tried to test this system in the past to help me with game reviews and record on the actual Steam Deck, but it's never been reliable because of these issues. Right now, the issue with the audio has been fixed. I did test a couple of recordings and I never had any distorted audio. But again, this system can be quite unreliable to the actual video part. So if you're somebody that uses this often, at least you're going to be relieved to know that the audio part of it has now been fixed. And hopefully soon it will become a lot more reliable in both video and audio. Valve has also shipped some updates to other handhelds, right? The ROG Ally and the Legion Go. Not going to go over them at all because I don't own any of these devices, so I can't really talk from experience. On to the next topic, and something that's been circulating on every one of my feeds is obviously the EA deal. Now, Electronic Arts has been acquired, or will be acquired, for over 55 billion. That's billion with a B. I think that's the largest deal ever for a public company to be taken private. So currently EA is publicly traded company. You can buy stocks for it. This deal will change that. It will take it off the stock market. It will make it a private company, and it's being bought out by the Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, a couple of other parties, namely a company called Silver Lake, and Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner's Affinity Partners. So in terms of deals in the gaming market, I think previously the largest deal was Microsoft buying Blizzard, and that took quite a while. I think for this one, it's not going to be finalized until early 2027 because there's a lot of legislation and a lot of people have to pretty much say yes to it in order for it to happen. It might fall apart, they might not get the funds. I think 19 billion of this deal is going to be through debt and through loans, so it's going to be really interesting to see if this actually goes through. The other interesting part is that they're taking it private, so any changes they want to do to the company they can now do without worrying about the shareholders' opinion. The only big gaming company I know that is private is actually Valve, and it's a pretty good company, so maybe this will be good change for EA, but it's too early to tell if there's going to be any change at all. I think short term all of EA's franchises like The Sims, Battlefield, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, there's not going to be much changes to them right now, but in the future we might see a lot of change. In terms of changes for the Steam Deck community, hopefully we can see something change with that pesky EA launcher that we all hate so much. You know, sometimes it's really not an issue, you just have to launch it once. Like for example with Split Fiction, I think I only launched it once and then I could play the game even offline, but for some other games it launches all the time, you have to log in all the time and it's really annoying. So hopefully there will be any change. I think any change with EA is welcome and it will be a little bit more streamlined to play their games on other devices. Now on to some hardware news. As you know, Microsoft and Asus have partnered to create sort of a branded Xbox handheld. Now Microsoft and Xbox specifically have said that they're working on their own handheld, but that will be a few years out, maybe 2026 to 2027. I think everybody is actually competing for a new handheld. Even PlayStation is making one, or at least these are the rumors, but this one will be Asus hardware branded as Xbox. Now they have two versions, the ROG Xbox Ally, which is $599 US. This is with the Z2 chip, and the Ally X, which is $1,000 with the Z2 Extreme chip. That's the new one. And I think the cheaper one, which is a $599, can be compared to a Steam Deck. However, a Steam Deck OLED starts at $549, and a Steam Deck LCD can start as cheap as $319, which is right now on sale. So in terms of value proposition, the Steam Deck still beats those. Now at the $1,000 for the ROG Ally X, you're pretty much getting a glorified gaming laptop with a 1080p screen. I think even for $1,000 you can find a better laptop with better specs if you're willing to change the actual form factor of your device. So I'm not really sure what the demand is going to be for the ROG Ally X. Maybe for just the Ally is going to be pretty good demand. I think it can compete with the Steam Deck, especially with the new Xbox full screen experience. Windows has been trying to get a little bit more friendly on handhelds, especially with controller setup and drivers and all that. But I think performance wise the Ally X isn't really leagues beyond the deck. You're mostly paying for extra RAM, a 1080p display and Windows. And while Windows does solve some anti-cheat headaches, it also brings all the Windows baggage, updates drivers, background bloat, issues with controller, issues with sleep and recovery. But the pre-orders are up and scalpers are already trying to flip them. I've seen prices on eBay as expensive as $2,500. I hope this is one of those cases where scalpers really didn't calculate the demand for these devices, because I don't want to hate on the actual devices, but I do want to hate on the scalpers. So hopefully they're gonna lose money over this. But I'm not getting either the $500 one or the Ally X, not because I hate Windows handhelds or I hate other devices, but because I don't have a need for them. But I do think that the Xbox full screen experience is actually a good thing for everybody, because they're giving SteamOS some competition, and that will drive innovation. It will just make SteamOS better, and when SteamOS gets better, it will make Windows better. So at the end, I think we as the consumer win. So hopefully they can improve on that and everybody benefits from it. And if you do hate Windows, I think Buyout Linux will for sure find their way onto these new Windows handhelds. I think the Linux folks, they always find a way to do it. And finally, it's wallet emptying season. The Steam Autumn Sale 2025 has kicked off. I think it's earlier this year. It's usually around mid-October, but it's already out. I did make a video recommending the top 15 games. I'll have a link in the description. You can go check it out. There are a ton more games that I want to recommend, but these were the ones I picked. It was really hard to pick just 15. I wish I could pick more than that. But if you still have any money left in your wallet and you're wondering what to purchase during this Steam sale to add to your backlog and never play it, you can check that video for my recommendations. That's gonna be it for this video. These are the news I wanted to share with you and give my opinion about. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe for more Steam Deck content, and you can join the Steam group where we have discussions about the Steam Deck, or you can follow my Steam Curator page where you can see game recommendations that either run very well on the Steam Deck or ones that you should avoid. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.